Hello dudes, DC Wood reviews the Arrowverse once again. Welcome to episode 4, where today we cover Arrow Season 3. Arrow was renewed for a third season during Season 2. Season 3 premiered on the 8th of October 2014 and the finale aired on the 13th of May 2015, spanning the obligatory 23 episodes. Although ratings were starting to dwindle here, Arrow continued to average over 3 million viewers a week. In the climax of Season 2, after all his suffering, all his losses, the Arrow finally triumphed over Deathstroke and saved Starling City from the siege. The Arrow is now officially a hero to the people and officially recognised as an ally to the SCPD. Quentin Lance has been promoted to captain, Roy Harper has taken on the alter ego of Arsenal and is officially the partner of the Arrow. Laurel Lance has found her stride as district attorney and beaten her alcoholism. John Diggle has settled down with Lila Michaels and become a father, and all the people are recovering and rebuilding. But it's not all roses. Thea has left Starling City after all the lies she's experienced and has fallen under the tutelage of Malcolm Merlin, aka the Dark Archer, who was revealed to be Thea's real father. New threats are about to emerge from the shadows to terrorise Starling City. And not only will the Dark Archer's return threaten all Oliver loves and knows, the threat posed by the League of Assassins is even greater. And Ra's al Ghul himself has finally arrived. In original rankings, I'd rated Arrow Season 3 13th overall. As we know, this is the season where Arrow sadly started to go off the rails. And yes, it's disappointing, but this still remains a season of two halves. And the first half is just as amazing as seasons 1 and 2. It absolutely is. Right away, there's an absolute shocker to kick things off when Sarah Lance, the Canary, returns to Starling City on assignment for the League of Assassins. Sarah, of course, rejoined the League as Dept for their help in stopping Slade Wilson. Another day is saved, and then Sarah is shockingly murdered by an unseen assassin, with Laurel cradling her dead sister. I absolutely loved Sarah in Season 2. And yes, I know Sarah would get better for Season 4 and Legends of Tomorrow, but still, for this to happen really opens up a whole new can of worms, setting many of the characters off in a whole new set of directions for Season 3. In terms of cast, acting, choreography, special effects, soundtrack, production values, Arrow remained as essential as ever for Season 3. Stephen Amell, Colton Haynes, Katie Cassidy, Willa Holland, David Ramsey, Emily Bett Rickards, Paul Blackthorne, all are as impeccable as ever, and some even thrive on the development that their characters receive. The development that the cast get in Season 3 is beautiful. Case in point, Laurel Lance. Laurel was arguably the weakest character in Arrow's first 2 seasons, and then right at the start of Season 3, her life gets torn apart when she has to witness the murder of her sister. All of a sudden, Laurel has this resolve to not only find Sarah's killer, but also to succeed Sarah and help her city in a way she couldn't before. To see Laurel try, fail, pick herself back up, take the identity of the Black Canary, continue to persevere through all her victories and defeats throughout the course of this season, and to see her ultimately prove herself as a hero. Her friendship develop with Nyssa Al Ghul, Katrina Law, who trains her. I love it. I absolutely loved Laurel's story in Season 3, and Katie Cassidy truly shined here. It's the highlight for me. It really, really is. And it's the same with Roy Harper, who finally takes the mantle of Arsenal this season and truly becomes the brother-in-arms to Oliver. I love Roy's story here. It's the same with Thea. Thea Queen, who ultimately becomes Speedy by the end of the season. Seeing Thea being let in on Oliver's secret finally, watch her become a warrior in her own right. And of course, John Barrowman is back as the Dark Archer, and he just continues to cement his legacy as one of the Arrowverse's greatest villains ever. He also goes through a great character arc this season, with Malcolm's past being explored and how he fell in with the League of Assassins and why they're now out for his blood due to Malcolm's undertaking plot being a violation of the League's code. And ultimately, it's revealed that Malcolm actually brainwashed Thea, his own daughter, to murder Sarah and thus manipulate Oliver into a showdown with Ra's al Ghul to protect Thea and Starling City. This all results in The Climb, the mid-season finale, which is an absolute masterpiece. This is the season's best episode and easily in my top 10 Arrow episodes of all time. It's a brilliant story, and it culminates in one of the show's best ever fight scenes against Ra's al Ghul, Matt Nable. There's also an absolutely excellent crossover with Flash. The Brave and the Bold is such a superb team up of the two heroes, but it's even better than Flash versus Arrow was on Flash Season 1. It's great to see the Flash's humour and tone contrast nicely with that of Arrow's dark, gritty nature. It's a real treat, this crossover. It's great. Other highlights include Katrina Law, Nyssa Al Ghul. It's pleasing that she gets so much to do here. Her character was really well introduced in Season 2, and it's really nice that we get to see her do more in Season 3, particularly with regards to her relationship with Laurel Lance, to see her train and befriend Laurel. That's a great character arc for her. We also get to see Rila Fukushima herself. She debuts in the Arrowverse as Tatsu Yamashiro, aka Katana, one of my favourite DC superheroines of all time. She's absolutely great. I love Katana. And of course, I'm familiar with Rila Fukushima's work from the Wolverine and the Fast and Furious films. It's great to see her. And of course, we get to see ex-Superman himself, Brandon Routh, debut as Ray Palmer, aka The Atom. His story, his motivations, it's just as great an arc as the Black Canaries. And of course, The Atom would go on to be one of the Arrowverse's greatest heroes in Legends of Tomorrow. We'd also see more in The Flash. Absolutely fantastic introduction. And we also get to see Vinnie Jones himself as Danny Brickwell for a fantastic mini-arc midway through Season 3. There's some really great stuff here indeed. For so many all-stars, so much great character development. And the first half is absolutely amazing, as I said. It's just unfortunate that it doesn't last. Now, I know that anything that's amazing simply cannot maintain that standard forever and ever. The Simpsons, Last of the Summer Wine, Doctor Who, The Flash, and indeed Arrow. Eventually, the cracks would show in constantly trying to tell a season-long story arc across 20-plus episodes. And here in Season 3, the story buckles under its own weight. Like I said, the first half keeps up the high standard of essential television that Arrow prided itself on in Seasons 1 and 2. The first half is fantastic. You're left absolutely hooked all the way to The Climb. But after that, and after the great mini-arc which sees the Black Canary, Arsenal, and the rest of Team Arrow try to keep the city safe from Danny Brickwell, after that, it all falls apart. There are too many twists and turns thrown left, right, and centre. Season 3 becomes so needlessly convoluted and tedious that by the end, you've no reason to be invested in the finale. As great as the characterization has been for most of the cast, this is the season where Felicity Smoke becomes absolutely unbearable. I loved Felicity's character in Seasons 1 and 2. I really loved how the writers sowed the seeds for Oliver and Felicity's eventual romance, but the execution was all wrong here. And the way Felicity is written for Season 3, it's no surprise that fans came to detest her. This is not the endearing, brilliant Miss Smoke I fell in love with from the get-go. The love triangle between Oliver, Roy and Felicity is also another tedious subplot that tarnishes season 3. And it's also in season 3 that the flashback saga starts to lose its way. Oliver's time in Hong Kong. It's good that it explores Oliver's time as an Argus agent and his antagonistic relationship with Amanda Waller. It's great seeing Oliver's friendship with Masao Yamashiro, the brilliant Carl Yoon, being explored. And it's also great to see how Oliver's friendship with Tatsu Katana formed. But while all this makes for a refreshing change from Oliver's time on Lian Yu, the Hong Kong part of the flashback saga, it doesn't feel as integral a chapter of Oliver's journey. It doesn't feel as essential to Oliver's present as the previous flashback arcs have felt. And then there's Ra's al Ghul himself here. Now, don't get me wrong, Matt Nable is truly excellent in the role, and Ra's al Ghul is easily one of the top 2 Batman villains of all time. Guess who's first? All the depth, the majesty, the drive, the honour, the prowess, the intellect of the villain. It's all here. And Matt is just as good in the role as Liam Neeson was for the Dark Knight trilogy. The problem here is twofold. It feels weird pitting one of Batman's arch enemies against the Arrow. Would you really take the Joker and put him against in a show like Arrow? I don't think you'd do that with Ra's al Ghul, to be honest. And while Ra's al Ghul does wreak havoc on Oliver's life and Starling City, there's a great relationship established between hero and villain. It all culminates in a cliched, lackluster finale that doesn't have anywhere near the same emotional climactic punch that The Climb does, or any of Arrow's previous season's finales. Season 3 starts so promisingly, and it all just falls apart due to bad pace and losing its focus. Arrow Season 3 is ultimately disappointing. What makes it all the more so is that there's so much greatness to revisit, and I wish that it had kept up the high level of quality that seasons 1 and 2 had given us. But then again, it's what happens when you've been spoilt by so much amazing television. You expect that standard all the time going forward, and it's too much to ask from anyone. You can't keep it up forever, and unfortunately, it's what's happened in season 3. This certainly isn't the absolute worst season for the show or the Arrowverse, but again, you can't help but think, if only this had kept the momentum going. If only. Overall rating, 6 out of 10. So, how would you rate Arrow Season 3? Please discuss in the comments below. Please click like and subscribe. Then join us again next time for my review of Constantine, the complete series. Stay safe and sane. See you next week.